What if I told you that attraction is not created by kindness, honesty, or effort, but by controlled uncertainty? Machiavelli once wrote that people desire most what they cannot fully possess. So what happens if a man deliberately becomes ungraspable? Not distant, not cold, but strategically unpredictable. Tonight, we examine Machiavelli's most dangerous idea applied to modern seduction. Can desire be engineered? Without force, without lies, using power alone. Listen carefully, because this is where most men fail before the game even begins. You have been taught that attraction grows from safety, reassurance, and emotional warmth. You were told to be kind, consistent, available, and emotionally open from the very first moment. But human desire does not operate on moral instruction. It operates on psychological pressure. Machiavelli understood this long before modern dating existed. He observed courts, queens, mistresses, and political alliances, and he noticed one repeating pattern. People desire most intensely when certainty is denied to them. The moment certainty arrives, desire begins to decay. Comfort is certainty, and certainty is the enemy of desire. When a man makes a woman too comfortable too quickly, he dissolves the tension that could have made her curious. He answers questions she has not yet emotionally asked. He offers presence before it has been earned. He gives stability before intrigue has been established. This does not make him trustworthy in her eyes. It makes him predictable, and predictability kills attraction faster than rejection ever could. In my experiment, the man does not attempt to impress. He does not flood her with attention. He does not try to convince her of his worth. Instead, he introduces a controlled imbalance. He becomes present without becoming consuming. He engages without attaching. He shows interest without surrendering momentum. This tension is subtle, and that is why weak men misunderstand it. They believe tension means being cold or distant. That is not tension. That is absence. And absence alone creates nothing. True tension is created when presence exists without resolution. The man in the experiment listens closely. He makes eye contact. He reacts genuinely. He allows moments of silence to breathe instead of rushing to fill them. When a woman expects him to lean emotionally, he pauses. When she expects reassurance, he redirects, not away from her, but away from certainty. And this does something dangerous inside the human mind. The brain is designed to seek closure. When it cannot find it, it loops. When it loops, it invests. When it invests, it attaches. Desire is not sparked by how much you give. It is sparked by how much you withhold while still remaining present. Most men rush because they are afraid of losing her. But fear leaks. It announces itself in over-texting, over-explaining, over-availability. Each of these behaviors communicates the same message. I need you to choose me. In Machiavelli's world, rulers who begged loyalty inspired rebellion. Rulers who appeared self-sufficient inspired allegiance. The same law applies here. The man in the experiment does not rush intimacy, emotional or otherwise. He allows moments to remain unresolved. He does not label the connection too early. He does not define the relationship before tension has done its work. He lets her wonder what he thinks instead of telling her what he feels. And understand this, tension is not anxiety. It is not confusion. It is not cruelty. Tension is anticipation. Anticipation is the space where desire grows. When a woman feels completely secure in knowing how you feel, what you want, and where you stand, her imagination shuts down. There is nothing left to explore, nothing left to discover, nothing left to earn. But when she senses emotional discipline, when she feels that your interest is real but not desperate, when your presence is warm but not indulgent, her attention sharpens. She listens more carefully. She notices shifts in your tone. She replays conversations. She wonders. And wondering is the beginning of attraction. This is why comfort must be delayed, not eliminated. The man in the experiment does not avoid kindness. He avoids excess. He does not avoid honesty. He avoids emotional dumping. He does not avoid connection. He avoids premature certainty. He understands that desire requires space to breathe. Space is not distance. Space is restraint. Think of a flame. Smother it with fuel and it dies. Starve it completely and it dies. Feed it slowly and it burns longer, brighter, and hotter. Comfort smothers. Neglect starves. Tension feeds. Machiavelli would say this is not manipulation. It is self-command. It is knowing when to advance and when to pause. It is knowing that revealing everything you are removes the reason to pursue you. The man who creates tension is not playing games. He is refusing to collapse himself into someone else's expectations. He has his own rhythm, his own priorities, his own emotional gravity. He does not orbit her. He allows her to feel his presence while remaining anchored in himself. And this is the part that unsettles people. Women are not drawn to men who revolve around them. They are drawn to men who have their own center. Tension emerges naturally when a man is not trying to extract validation from interaction. when he does not need approval to feel complete, when he enjoys the moment without trying to secure the outcome. This emotional independence creates a paradox. The less he tries to lock her in, the more she feels compelled to lean in. The experiment reveals a brutal truth. Attraction is not created by effort alone. It is created by emotional pacing. Those who reveal too much too fast are not punished for honesty. They are punished for removing mystery before it has done its work. And once tension is gone, it rarely returns. That is why the first rule of Machiavellian seduction is restraint. Not silence, not distance. Restraint. You must allow desire to grow before you attempt to satisfy it. You must allow curiosity to form before you attempt to answer it. You must allow uncertainty to exist before you try to resolve it. Because desire is not born in comfort. It is born in the space between what is offered and what is withheld, in the moments where interest is felt but not fully explained, in the silence after connection, where the mind continues the conversation on its own, where attraction begins to move without being pushed, where tension quietly tightens and attention deepens, and the emotional current starts pulling without either side fully acknowledging why stay with me. Because this is the keynote that separates men who are desired from men who are merely understood. You have been taught that emotional availability is proof of maturity. That openness creates trust. That vulnerability builds connection. All of this is true in the long term. But seduction does not begin in the long term. It begins in the moment where emotional energy is exchanged before commitment exists. Machiavelli warned rulers about revealing intentions too early. Not because intentions were evil, but because once known they could be exploited. The same psychological law applies here. Emotional availability, when given without structure, collapses power. Most men misunderstand what emotional availability actually is. They think it means immediate access to their thoughts, feelings, fears, plans, and emotional history. They believe that by opening themselves completely, they appear authentic. What they actually appear is exposed. In my experiment, the man is emotionally present but selectively available. He listens deeply but reveals slowly. He responds honestly but not exhaustively. He does not hide who he is. He controls how much of himself is released at once. This is not deception. This is pacing. Human attachment forms through gradual investment. When everything is available at once, there is no progression, no ascent, no sense of earning deeper access. The emotional ladder is skipped, and when there are no rungs left to climb, interest plateaus. The man in the experiment understands that mystery is not silence. Mystery is incomplete information delivered with confidence. He does not explain himself unnecessarily. He does not justify his emotions. He does not narrate his inner world in real time. He allows her to feel him without fully possessing him. And this is where desire sharpens. Emotional availability without boundaries communicates need. Boundaried availability communicates self-respect. When a man gives emotional access freely, it signals that his inner world is cheap. When he gives it deliberately, it signals that his inner world has weight. Women are not drawn to emotional chaos. They are drawn to emotional stability that is not immediately penetrable. The experiment reveals something uncomfortable. When a man becomes too emotionally available too early, he removes the opportunity for emotional pursuit. He turns intimacy into a transaction instead of a discovery. In politics, Machiavelli observed that leaders who spoke too much weakened their authority. Those who spoke less, but with precision, commanded attention. The same effect occurs here. A man who speaks emotionally with restraint becomes someone whose words matter more. Silence is not distance when it is calm. Silence is presence when it is grounded. The man in the experiment does not overshare his wounds. He does not unload past betrayals. He does not present himself as a problem to be fixed. He carries himself as someone who has already integrated his experiences. This does not make him cold. It makes him composed. Composure is erotic because it implies strength without display. Emotional availability must be earned because intimacy without progression feels hollow. When a woman senses that she has access to your entire emotional world before attraction has stabilized, her curiosity shuts down. There is nothing left to uncover. But when she senses that there is more beneath the surface, and that access requires time, consistency, and alignment, her investment increases. She listens more closely. She notices patterns. She seeks moments of emotional closeness. She begins to lean toward you emotionally without realizing why. This is not because you are withholding affection. It is because you are withholding emotional collapse. There is a difference. The man in the experiment does not disappear when emotions arise. He remains present. But he does not flood the space with reassurance or explanation. He allows emotional moments to exist without trying to control them. This restraint creates asymmetry. Asymmetry is not inequality. It is imbalance of exposure. One person wonders more. One person seeks more. One person invests more emotional energy earlier. That imbalance fuels attraction. The mistake weak men make is trying to equalize emotional exposure immediately. They believe fairness creates intimacy. In reality, fairness eliminates polarity, and polarity is the engine of desire. Machiavelli would tell you that power does not announce itself. It is felt. A man who controls his emotional availability does not need to assert dominance. His presence already sets the tone. He does not chase emotional closeness. He allows it to approach him. This is why over-explaining is deadly. When you explain why you feel something, you remove its impact. When you justify your emotions, you lower their value. When you expose every thought, you make your inner world predictable. Predictability dissolves attraction. The experiment proves that emotional availability works best when it is layered. The first layer is warmth. The second is curiosity. The third is trust. The fourth is vulnerability. Most men skip directly to the fourth and wonder why desire disappears. Controlled availability keeps the emotional story unfolding. A woman does not need to know everything about you to feel safe. She needs to feel that you know yourself, that you are not leaking emotion, that you are not searching for validation through confession. The man in the experiment is emotionally grounded. He is not afraid of intimacy, but he is not desperate for it. He understands that intimacy offered too freely is rarely valued. He lets silence do some of the work. He lets time deepen the connection. He lets her imagination fill the gaps he leaves open. This does not manipulate her feelings. It respects the natural rhythm of attraction. And here is the harsh truth. The more emotionally available you are too early, the less emotionally valuable you appear. Scarcity is not created by absence. It is created by discernment. The man who controls his emotional availability is not playing hard to get. He is being hard to read. And humans are endlessly fascinated by what they cannot fully decode. This is why women often feel drawn to men who seem emotionally solid but not immediately accessible. They feel something there, something grounded and steady, but not laid bare. That sensation creates intrigue, and intrigue is the bridge between interest and desire. The experiment confirms what Machiavelli always knew. Emotional power is not about hiding. It is about timing. It is about releasing depth gradually instead of spilling it all at once. It is about allowing attraction to pull rather than pushing connection forward before it is ready. When emotional availability is controlled, every moment of closeness carries more weight. Every shared feeling feels earned. Every step forward feels intentional. And that is how emotional presence becomes magnetic rather than disposable, how warmth becomes strength instead of need, how availability becomes a choice rather than a plea, how restraint quietly reshapes attraction and shifts the balance of desire without force, without pressure, without explanation. Stay focused here, because this keynote exposes the invisible exchange that determines who is desired and who is ignored. Men believe attraction is built through words, gestures, compliments, and effort. They believe the more they give, the more they are valued. But Machiavelli understood a harsher reality. Power is not held by the one who gives the most, but by the one whose presence changes behavior. Attention is not just noticing someone. Attention is energy. It is time. It is emotional focus. And whoever controls attention controls the direction of desire. In my experiment, the man does not compete for attention. He does not beg for it, chase it, or demand it. He offers it deliberately, then redirects it without apology. This is not punishment, this is calibration. Most men treat attention as an unlimited resource. They respond instantly. They remain constantly available. They revolve around her schedule, her moods, her availability. Without realizing it, they teach her that their attention costs nothing. And anything that costs nothing is valued accordingly. Machiavelli watched kings lose authority the moment they made themselves too accessible. The more available a ruler became, the less his presence mattered. The same psychology applies here. When your attention is always available, it loses its weight. The man in the experiment understands that attention is felt most when it is not constant. He is fully present when he engages. He listens deeply. He reacts genuinely. He does not multitask emotionally. His focus is sharp. And then when the moment ends, his attention returns to his life. No dramatic exits. No emotional withdrawal. No explanation. This creates contrast. And contrast is what makes attention noticeable. When attention flows uninterrupted, it becomes background noise. When it appears and disappears naturally, it becomes meaningful. The woman begins to register its absence, not as loss, but as awareness. She notices when he is not there. And noticing is the first step toward desire. The experiment reveals a truth most men resist. Giving more attention does not create attraction. It creates familiarity. And familiarity without polarity turns into neutrality. The man who controls attention does not do so out of fear. He does so out of self-directions. He has priorities, a life that demands his focus. This is not an act, this is structure. Structure is attractive because it implies stability without submission. When a woman senses that your attention is not automatic, she becomes more conscious of how she receives it. She engages more actively. She invests more emotionally. She becomes aware that connection requires mutual presence. This is how attention shifts from being free to being valuable. The man in the experiment does not reward every behavior with attention. He responds to alignment, not availability. When conversation flows, he stays. When energy drops, he disengages calmly. He does not force momentum. This teaches a subtle lesson. Attention follows quality, not effort, not persistence, quality. Machiavelli would call this governance. Attention is your currency, and like any currency, it must be spent intentionally. Those who spend it recklessly become poor in influence. Men who chase attention signal that they are dependent on it. Men who direct attention signal that they possess it. The difference is felt instantly. There is something deeply unsettling to the human mind about someone who can give attention fully and then remove it without emotional reaction. It triggers reflection. Questions arise. Did I say something wrong? Is he distracted? Does he value me? These questions are not created by manipulation. They are created by contrast. Contrast forces the mind to engage. The experiment shows that attention must have rhythm. Constant attention creates emotional numbness. Intermittent attention creates focus. This is not cruelty. It is how the nervous system responds to stimulation. A song played continuously becomes noise. A pause in music sharpens listening. The man in the experiment understands timing. He does not hover. He does not disappear. He engages, then steps back. He allows space without severing connection. This balance keeps attraction alive. Weak men confuse attention with validation. They believe if they stop giving attention, they will lose her. In reality, excessive attention often causes the very disinterest they fear. When a woman receives unlimited attention, she does not feel chosen. She feels accommodated. Being accommodated does not feel special. Being chosen does. The man who controls attention creates the feeling of choice. He does not seek to be seen constantly. He allows himself to be missed. Missing someone is not absence. It is awareness of value. Machiavelli observed that citizens respected leaders they rarely saw more than those constantly present. Scarcity created reverence. Overexposure created contempt. The same law applies here. The experiment proves that attention is not about quantity. It is about impact. 10 minutes of focused presence outweigh hours of distracted availability. Silence after connection often does more than words during it. The man in the experiment leaves conversations slightly unresolved. Not emotionally abandoned, but open-ended. He allows anticipation to form naturally. He does not close every loop. This open loop keeps the connection alive in her mind. Attention that lingers mentally is more powerful than attention that is physically constant. This is why attention must be withdrawn without drama. Drama turns withdrawal into manipulation. Calm withdrawal turns it into self-respect. When attention is given freely and removed cleanly, it teaches others how to engage with you. It sets a standard. The man in the experiment is not testing her. He is observing himself. He watches how his attention affects the dynamic. He adjusts not to control her, but to maintain balance. Balance sustains attraction. The uncomfortable truth is that attention reveals value more than words ever could. Where you place your attention shows what you prioritize. When you prioritize yourself, others sense it. This is why men who have purpose, direction, and internal focus naturally command attention without asking for it. Their attention feels earned, not owed. The experiment confirms Machiavelli's principle in its rawest form. Control the currency, and you control the exchange. Attention is the currency of desire. Spend it with intention, and it multiplies in value. Spend it carelessly, and it dissolves into noise. When attention is treated as something precious, every moment of connection gains weight. Every interaction carries significance. Every absence creates awareness, and awareness is where attraction deepens, where curiosity strengthens, where desire begins to move on its own, pulled not by force, but by the quiet gravity of focused presence that appears, withdraws, and leaves a trace that the mind continues to follow long after the moment ends. Stay with me here, because this keynote dismantles one of the most dangerous illusions men carry into attraction. Men believe beauty creates desire. They believe looks, charm, status, or surface confidence are what draw women in. Machiavelli would tell you that beauty only opens the door. It does not keep anyone inside. What endures is not what is seen, but what is not fully known. Beauty is immediate, mystery is durable. In my experiment, the man does not attempt to be visually impressive or theatrically charismatic. He does not perform. He does not posture. He allows his presence to speak without explanation. He understands that what is obvious is quickly consumed, and what is consumed loses value. Mystery is not about hiding flaws or inventing personas. It is about refusing to collapse your depth into something easily digestible. It is about allowing curiosity to survive past the first impression. The moment a woman believes she understands you completely, attraction begins to decay. Not because she dislikes what she sees, but because the human mind craves discovery. When discovery ends, interest follows. Machiavelli observed this in courts and alliances. Kings who revealed everything about their intentions became predictable. Predictability invited manipulation. Mystery preserved authority. The same psychology applies here. The man in the experiment does not rush to define himself. He does not narrate his identity. He does not list achievements, struggles, or ambitions to prove worth. He allows fragments to emerge naturally over time. This fragmentation creates intrigue. A woman hears pieces, not the whole story. She senses coherence without full clarity. She feels there is more beneath the surface, but not enough information to resolve it. And the mind hates unresolved patterns. When beauty fades, mystery deepens. When charm wears thin, mystery compounds. When novelty disappears, mystery sustains attention. The experiment reveals that men who rely on beauty become anxious with time. Men who cultivate mystery become more compelling with time. Why? Because mystery invites participation. A woman does not passively observe a mysterious man. She actively thinks about him. She fills in gaps. She projects meaning. She searches for understanding. In doing so, she invests emotional energy. Investment breeds attachment. The man in the experiment understands that explanation is the enemy of mystery. Every unnecessary clarification reduces intrigue. Every emotional monologue collapses depth into certainty. He answers questions honestly, but not exhaustively. He allows ambiguity where clarity is not required. He does not rush to be understood. Being understood too early is not intimacy, is exposure. Machiavelli would say that a ruler who seeks to be loved sacrifices authority. A man who seeks to be fully known sacrifices desire. This does not mean becoming distant or evasive. It means becoming deliberate. The man in the experiment is warm, engaged, and attentive. But his inner world is revealed in layers, not dumps. He lets actions hint at values. He lets consistency imply character. He lets silence suggest depth. Silence, when grounded, is not emptiness, it is space. Space allows imagination to operate, and imagination is far more seductive than certainty. A beautiful face excites the senses. A mysterious presence occupies the mind. This is why mystery outlives beauty. Beauty triggers attraction quickly, but it burns out just as fast. Mystery ignites slowly, but it sustains heat long after novelty fades. The experiment shows that when a man resists the urge to explain himself, others begin explaining him to themselves. They assign meaning. They create narratives. They wonder. Wondering is the engine of desire. The man who over-explains robs others of this process. He becomes emotionally flat, not because he lacks depth, but because he refuses to let others explore it. Mystery is not concealment. It is restraint. It is knowing that not every thought must be spoken, not every feeling must be shared, not every moment must be clarified. The man in the experiment does not correct every misunderstanding. He allows minor misinterpretations to exist if they do not violate truth. He understands that clarity can wait, but intrigue must be protected. This is not manipulation. This is psychological economy. Machiavelli believed that perception often mattered more than reality. A leader who appeared powerful wielded more influence than one who constantly explained his strength. The same law governs attraction. A man who appears grounded, layered, and self-contained draws more interest than one who constantly displays himself for approval. Mystery signals confidence without display. It suggests that there is something worth discovering, and that discovery requires time. This creates patience. Patience is rare, and what is rare is valued. The experiment confirms that mystery shifts the dynamic from evaluation to pursuit. Instead of asking whether she likes him, the woman begins asking who he really is. That shift is everything. When a woman stops evaluating and starts exploring, attraction deepens. Exploration requires curiosity. Curiosity requires mystery. The man in the experiment never rushes to resolve tension. He lets questions linger. He lets moments end slightly incomplete. He leaves conversations without closing every loop. These open loops keep the connection alive beyond the interaction. Beauty ends when the eyes move on. Mystery continues when the mind stays engaged. This is why men who age well in attraction are not those who cling to looks, but those who deepen presence. Their mystery grows as their life expands. Their silence becomes heavier. Their words become fewer but more precise. Machiavelli would say this is power aging into influence. The experiment exposes the final illusion. Being fully known is not the goal of attraction. Being compelling enough to invite discovery is. A man who preserves mystery does not disappear. He becomes unforgettable. Because what is fully revealed is quickly consumed, but what is only partially seen continues to pull, continues to invite, continues to echo in thought long after beauty has been registered and forgotten, long after charm has faded, long after words have ended, lingering in the unanswered spaces where desire quietly survives. What you have heard is not a lesson in tricks, manipulation, or deceit. It is a confrontation with human nature as it truly operates, stripped of romance and moral fantasy. Machiavelli never taught men how to force loyalty. He taught them how loyalty naturally forms around power, restraint, and self-command. Desire follows the same law. Attraction does not grow where there is need. It grows where there is tension. It does not deepen through exposure, but through timing. It is not sustained by beauty, effort, or availability, but by mystery, attention, and emotional discipline. The man who understands this stops chasing outcomes. He stops explaining himself. He stops trading dignity for approval. Instead, he becomes centered. He governs his emotions, his presence, and his attention with intention. This does not make him cruel. It makes him composed. It does not make him distant. It makes him grounded. It does not make him manipulative. It makes him selective. When tension is allowed to exist, desire awakens. When emotional availability is controlled, attraction stabilizes. When attention is spent with intention, value is felt. When mystery is preserved, interest survives time. The harsh truth is this: people do not fall for those who offer everything. They fall for those who make them feel something unfolding. You do not seduce by pursuing. You seduce by becoming a presence that does not beg to be chosen. Machiavelli would leave you with one final principle: never attempt to conquer desire. Govern yourself, and desire will move toward you on its own.